When you fall in love with the art of knitting, you will build a collection of little leftover balls of yarn. What to do with those when they can't make a pair of socks or a whole item that you want to have? Well, I hope you're going to find joy in learning to knit some miniatures. So join me today to knit this sweet little figure, the little animal miniature. So first we're going to take 2 needles, and this yarn is very much like boucle yarn, similar. I use it for another project, and now I have a little bit left. It reminded me of the beautiful animals that give us fiber. So if you haven't seen our earlier videos, there are various ways to cast on. Here we are going to have a long tail cast on. So I have a long tail. I drape the yarn over my 2 needles held together. I will do this slowly in case that you haven't practiced casting on in one of our earlier videos. But if you go to playlist Sock Knitting 101, where I take you through the steps of making a little teaching sock, like a little mock-up sock, tiny model, the first video there is also long tail cast on. Very slowly introduced, with more attention to actually showing you how to cast on. But you can also, if you just need a little refresher or a reminder, this video will probably be plenty. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need 21 stitches. I have 21 stitches now. Just like knitting socks, I need to knit in the round. So I'm going to pull out 1 needle. I need to distribute my 21 stitches onto 3 needles. So 7 stitches on each needle. I'm going to knit them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's my first needle. Now I get my second needle. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's my second needle. Now I get my third needle. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Now my stitches are distributed on 3 needles evenly. Now I am ready to do round number 2 to 13. I think we will stop at 12, see how much we have, and then we will add one more round if it looks like we need it. Our animal is supposed to look like a little llama. So let's begin. This is round number 1. So when you're connecting the round, just like when you're knitting socks, you will put your things down flat. You want to make sure that the edge is down, that nothing is flipped. You will take the line of the working yarn, make sure it's on the correct side. Then you'll close the needles together. This one will go on top because that's where we go first. Needle 1, needle 2, needle 3. I pick this up, steady it with my fingers, and I knit all the way around. This is round 2. That first knitting was round 1, even though it didn't feel like a round because we were just setting things up. But it still did make one round for us. Now here we have round 2. Now we go to round 3. I knit all the time, no purls. Round 4. Round 5. Round 6. So we're working on what will look like the body of our little animal. I'm calling it a miniature because it's going to be a tiny figure, but we will also knit some true miniatures that are very tiny, maybe this big. Today we will do a larger one to get used to it. 6th round is done. Let's do number 7. Start round 8. Start round 9. Now you can see how the skills for knitting socks can translate into many other fun projects. If you made socks with this yarn, for example, and you're giving them away as a gift, you can use leftover yarn to knit up a tiny figure that a person might like. If they like llamas, you already now have a tutorial for a little llama, but we will add other animals too. Do comment in the video. Tell me which other animals would you like to knit with your leftover yarn from your sock projects, or miniatures, figures that maybe can become little pins to wear or decorate luggage with. Round 10. Round 11. We're almost there. We do want a little more. We don't want the body to be too short. Round 11. Let's do round 12, then we'll take a look. Okay, so here we have round 12. Let's see. How deep is it? Do I want it deeper? For this would be the body, and then above the body we will do the neck and head. I like it at this size. I'm gonna say let's have these 12 rounds. You might be using a thinner yarn. You might want to have rounds 13 and 14 until it looks somewhat like this rectangle. That would remind you of the body of the llama. And you can look at the picture of this finished little figure to judge and estimate. So I'm going to stop with 12. You check what it looks like on your end with the yarn you have in your leftover basket. And maybe you'll need to do 13 or 14 rounds instead of just 12. Okay, when you like the rectangle, that will be the body. Now we need to cast off some stitches so that we can have neck and head on one side. Okay, so now we're going to cast off some stitches. Let's do... Okay, I want to show you this. There are many cast-off methods. For this project, we are going to learn this one. You will knit 1, knit 2, pass 1 over 2. That's 1 stitch cast off. Knit again, pass over, 2 stitches cast off. Knit again, pass over, 3 stitches. Knit, pass over, 4 stitches. Knit, pass over, 4 stitches, or 5 stitches. I had 7, so now it's 5. I miscounted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Knit this one. 6 stitches cast off. Knit again. Pass over. 7 stitches. 8 stitches. 9 stitches cast off. 10 stitches cast off. 11 stitches cast off. 12 stitches cast off. Okay, I have 2 here. I'm going to move things. I'm going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so I'm going to stand it. See, it looks like that. I'm going to make it stand so the body will become closed here. And now the head and the neck will come up here. Okay, so now we're going to go back and forth. And we'll use our sewing needle to make this. It's too few stitches to knit in the round, to be honest with you. You could do it. I just don't think it's a lot of fun, especially if you are a beginner at knitting with many needles and making rounds. So just to make this use of leftover yarn more fun, we are going to knit back and forth. So let's do a couple of rows. This is 1, 2, now while I'm doing this, I'm looking at a picture of a llama, and several different patterns that I came across. They all show different heights of the neck and different size of the head. So when we do things like this, we stylize, we make it remind us of an animal as close as we can. So let's maybe we can make it bigger now. Like maybe we can have this as a little bit of a neck. So now we want to take it from 9 to, let's see, I don't want 18 stitches, but what happens if I go knit 1, make 2? That's 3. Knit 1, make 2, 6. Knit 1, make 2, 9. Knit 1, make 2, 12, and then 1 more, 13. Let's do that. Slip, don't knit it. The first one, slip. Now, to make 2, there are, again, various ways of doing it. I like to pull the stitch in the row below. I like to pull that up on projects like this. Put it on my needle. Now I have 2 loops for my stitch, and then I knit 1 loop and the second loop. And they seem to be coming out of the same root and not really creating a hole. That's why I like that. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm going to increase again. I'll pull the loop from the row before, up, put it on the needle. I have now 2 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See how they nicely come out of the same root and they don't make a hole. 6, 7. Let's make 2 again. So I pull the stitch from the row before, put it up on my needle, knit 8 and knit 9. And there I have the nice increase again, 10. Now again, I'm going to pull the stitch from before and put it up, 11, 12, 13. Okay, let's now knit a few rows with 13 stitches and see how big of a head we want to make. So we have the body, we have a little bit of a neck. Let's now see how many rows we need for the head. So this will be row 1. After increasing, this is our row 1 after increasing. When you're doing stockinette stitch on this project, when we were working in the round, this is row 2, we were knitting always because we just came around and around. Now when we do rows on the face, I'm doing knit. When the inside is facing me, like this for my 3rd row after increase, I'm going to do purl. So it's always one side knit, the other side purl. I know you know this, but in case you are forgetting, or maybe you haven't done this before. So if you haven't done this before, what is a purl stitch? Your yarn is in the front and you're knitting from the back of your work. You're coming in from the back and grabbing the yarn in the front. It is opposite of a knit stitch, where your yarn is in the back and you're coming through and grabbing yarn in the back of your work. But flip the first stitch. This is, I think, 3rd row after increase. Let's double check my count. It can't be 3rd, it has to be 4th. Hold on, or the 2nd. What did I do? If you find yourself in this situation thinking, what did I do? You go here and you find, where did I make an increase? That increase comes where the 2 stitches are coming out of the same root. There it is. This is where I added the stitch. You see how they're coming out of the same root? If I'm not seeing it clearly there on the edge, I can see it clearly here in one of the middle increases. See how this was 1 and then it became 2. There you go. Here you can see it very clearly where I have fewer of these little bumps in the yarn. So if I go from there and I count 1, 2, 3, 4, it is 4. Okay. 5th row after increase. And then we'll see what it looks like. So we decide if we want to cast it off to end the head. So here's the body, the little bit of the neck. You can see the head here. That's gonna look nice. This will be shorter because it will be sewn and stuffed. Okay. So now we are going to make this smaller, but we're not going to cast off. We're going to leave some loops so we can thread and pull the yarn. So you're going to slip 1 and knit 2 together. Knit 2 together again. Knit 2 together. 2 together, 2 together, 2 together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We have 7 stitches. So we don't want to cast off and make a thick cast off, like a bump on the head. We're going to close it by putting the sewing needle through these. So I'm going to need a little bit of a longer tail. Here's my yarn, sewing needle, and I'm going to just go here and catch my stitches with it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And I will pull this through, all the way through, and now pull it tight. And look how it's going to make nice round head. So now I can keep using this to close the edge on the back of the neck. What you want to look for here very carefully is those nice pretty stitches that you slipped. It's hard to see them on this type of yarn, but if you put your needle under, you're going to see those nice little chains. They look like little V's. Okay, so I pull this tight, and then I'm going to follow these stitches. So this is not a garment we're going to wear. It's a figure. We don't need to make too sturdy, but we also don't want it to be too flimsy. For if you put it somewhere as a decoration and people touch it and look at it, you don't want it to unravel and fall apart. If you're giving it as a gift, someone might even put it like on their visor, I don't know, on their keychain, on a child's mobile. So you want to be careful that it's sturdy enough that it can be used, but you don't have to be as concerned about the long-lasting wear and tear like you would on a pair of socks. So we're just going to follow our stitches. We will follow out here as well. So here we have some options. We can go across and do a whip stitch, or we can turn it inside out. On a yarn that's fluffy like this, or if you have true boucle yarn, you don't need to turn it inside out. Especially if you're going to do this project to the end with me and make a little blanket to put over the llama's back. Then you can just go with the whip stitch from the outside. It's going to work just fine with this type of yarn. For the shape is going to hide inside. If you're using yarn that does not have this texture, that's more smooth, you will want to sew it from the inside. So when you're choosing whether to do this project, maybe wait until you have some of this bumpy yarn or true boucle yarn in your stash. And then do this one. I think it's much cuter with that type of yarn. And then here when we get to the end, we can put our needle through and down. And we can do a little blanket for its back before we stuff it. It's going to be easier to attach. It already reminds me of a little llama toy or an illustration. So I have a few strands of colored leftover yarn that I'm going to use for its little blanket to put on its back. Let's start with this dark blue. I think I'm just going to do maybe 6 or 5 stitches. Let's see. Same type of casting on. Oops, I need 2 needles, remember, for long tail cast on? There we go. Too short of a tail. Let's get a little longer tail. There we go. I think 6 stitches. Let's do 8. This yarn is thinner than my fluffy white yarn. Okay, 8 stitches. Let's do 3 rows. One row knit. Now second row we're also going to do knit so that we avoid the curling. When we do garter stitch, it's going to lay flat. So let's knit again, not purl. Row number 2, knit again. Row number 3, knit again. Always slip the first stitch on these things, especially these little things. It's going to make a very nice smooth edge if you do. See how much we have. You see how it's laying flat? Okay, so now I'm going to do this color. I'll just join it like that, and I will hide it when I attach things. I will still slip the first stitch, and I'm going to purl 1 row. And turn and knit 1 row. Made a nice little stripe. I'm going to cut off this color. Turn my work. I'm going to purl with this dark blue. and knit. And purl, and then I'm going to check the size. Okay, now I check the size of my little blanket. I think that's just enough. It's going to be very cute. So now I'm going to knit and purl 4 rows to come across the back. I'm not going to change the color until I come to the other side. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's check the size of my tiny little blanket for my tiny little llama's back. Okay, I think we're halfway there. We're right on top of her back. Now we can do just as many rows on the other side and we will cast off and attach. So 4, 3, 2, 1, 'Can check. 1, 2, 3, 4. You fold it in half. You need 2 more blue and then this terracotta color. 1, 2, 'Now I join my terracotta color and I knit 1 row. I purl 1 row. So only the edges of the little tiny blanket are garter stitch. Everything else is stockinette, knit, purl. Now I cut off my terracotta yarn. That little strand was just enough. I got my blue, and now I need to do this garter stitch. 1, 2, 3. The 4th row will be my cast off row. So 3, knit, knit, knit. So here I go, knit. Turn and knit again, do not purl. Turn and knit again, do not purl. Turn and cast off. We will use the same cast off we practiced here on Llama's back. You can use many different ways. This will be good for practice in this project. So 1, 2, 1 jumps over the 2, knit again, jump over, knit again, jump over. You see how it's making it look like I'm knitting, and it's giving me this second ridge to match the other end. That's the reason why I'm choosing that type of casting off for this edge of the blanket. Right? With a little bit of a tail for sewing. Okay. So now I can, this is a figure, like I said. I don't have to worry too much because it's not going to be something people wear, but we still want to secure things nicely and neatly. So we're going to tie the knot on each end with our terracotta yarn. So pull to close the stitches and then tie. I like to tie 2 knots. And tie and trim it. Now we're going to hide these inside when we attach the little blanket to the llama's back. So it goes like this. It's going to go right like that. Okay. So holding it in place so it's equal lengths on each side, you take one long tail of the blue, and we're just going to do a simple running stitch starting here and hiding it in the blue of the knitting. Make your running stitch size the size of your stitches on the top, and you can skip 1 or 2 if you want to from the back. You can see on the back, on the inside, it looks very nice and clean, but also it's not going to matter because you're going to have stuffing inside. You see why I wanted to do this before I stuffed it and closed it, because it's much easier to hold like this. You can get as elaborate with your blanket design as you want. I like to keep it simple, but then it can serve many purposes. It can become a storytelling toy. It can be embellished with gems and beads and crystals. But of course, if you have a special person you're making a little gift for, if you have inspiration to make this more elaborate, please go ahead and do that. Some people like to leave little hiding places to put little secret messages, little secret hiding spots. You can do that as well. You can put a little love note in here. I'm going to close it for this project, but just letting you know, giving you some inspiration on what you could do. Now you don't need to tie any knots. We're going to have wool stuffing inside of this. If you're really, really worried that it's going to come loose, then yes, go ahead and make a knot inside. But usually, I have really, in all the time I've been making things, I have not seen it come undone unless my dogs got to it. Okay, so now we're going to put all of this inside, and then we're going to stuff it and close it, and we'll see how to add details for the feet and the ears and the nose. So it really reminds us of a little llama. It already does though, doesn't it? So here's a little handful of wool. It would be really fun if I had alpaca or something similar. This is sheep wool. It's gonna work just fine. This is what I use the most for making toys. It is just so warm. And when it's good quality and nicely washed, it has this nice smell and warmth to it. And also the toys come out both formed. They can keep the shape, but are also soft at the same time. Okay, let's close this. You can make it more or less soft by adding more or less wool stuffing. That depends on what you would like to do with the little figure. Okay, we come here. You see this was the gap of our round. First we have to close that, like so. And now we can begin sewing the bottom. So I want to go from where I am. I don't want to skip around too much. So I'm going to close it here. Again, you may not like this type of stitch for closing the bottom if you're not using boucle or this type of textured yarn. You may want to use a different stitch. But for this project, with this type of yarn, this works really well and makes things go very easily. And it's easy for anyone to make. So check what it looks like with your yarn, and you might want to use a whip stitch or maybe even a blanket stitch, depending on what you need. Or you can just do what I'm doing without any changes. So you have some options here with this long tail. If you are going to use it as an ornament, you can push this all the way through and up through here and pull it out. Or you can just push it through, cut it, and let it hide inside in the wool. If you later decide you want to make an ornament, you can always add here or here a loop of string or yarn. And use your fingers to adjust the shape and look from both sides and see where do you want her face to be. Where is she facing? Okay, let's add some details. I'm going to use this color and smooth worsted yarn. It's left over from an old project, just like all of these were. And we're going to cast on 6 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I'm going to pull out the needle and I'm going to push this over to the other edge. I know my yarn is here. That's okay. I'm going to keep it there, but I'm going to knit from this side. So I pull it tight, and I do this first stitch as tight as I can. Come all the way around, you see? I'll do that again. So I just finished casting on. Now I'm going to push my 6 stitches to the other edge of the needle. The yarn is in the back. I'm going to start knitting from the front here. Put my needle through, grab the yarn, pull it through, and now I want to pull it tight. Pull it very tight. You see how it's going to close that little round here? Then I knit the next one. 2. Keep pulling it tight. 3. 4. 5. And the last one is very tight. 6. I'm going to push it over again. And I'm going to cast off. It's very tight. So take one off, just knit it. Make it tight. Knit one more. Pass the first over the second. Next one. I will leave a longer tail. It's always easier to cut off yarn. So always leave longer tails. Do you see how because we were sliding it back and forth, it created this little bump? And this little bump is going to be to help us create a little nose, a little muzzle. I'm going to take the longer of the 2 strands. And this little muzzle, I'm going to close the round here. Remember how? There we go. I'm going to take this unknitted tail. I'm going to stuff a little bit of it inside from the back, inside this little hole. It's going to give it some substance. I have a lot, so I'm going to cut off a part. I'm going to secure it inside by doing a couple of stitches. I pull this. I come from the inside to catch that little bundle I made. Come from the top into my little bundle. Catch a little more. See, this is not very precise. You're just kind of catching it in there. Okay, do I want it here? Do I want it here? I think I like it on this side. I'm going to go with my needle like this for the placement that I want. I'm going to see if I like it. I think I like it. Okay. Go through here. Make sure you like it. Don't finish up until you're sure you like it. Okay. Now we're going to go nicely and gently around the edge. This little muzzle. Catching the little edge here and there. Can adjust it. Change the shape a little bit if you need to by adding a stitch or 2 with your sewing needle. Then just gonna go through here. All right. I'm starting to see it in here. Okay, now we want little ears. You know how llamas have little ears? I'll make them in the same color. I know it kind of looks like a duck. It's not ready yet, guys. It will be fine. Let's do, this was 6 stitches. We don't want ears to be too big. Let's do 3 stitches. Okay, now the same thing. I'm going to push this over. That's one. Push it over. We only have 3 stitches, so we don't have to worry about pulling tight. It's just going to pull tight on its own. That's 2 times. Let's do it 3 times. Four times. 5 times. Let's check the size. Let's do it 6 times. Okay, now we cut it. Take the sewing needle. One, 2, 3, pull. Okay, let's make one more like this. Okay, slide over your 3 stitches. We did 6 little knits, so 1, slide over, 2, slide over, 3, slide over, 4, slide, 5, slide, and 6th time across. Okay, get the sewing needle. Get 1, 2, 3, pull through. Very good. Okay, let's see. Where are the ears going to go? Oh, what do you think? It's going to be so very cute. Now we need to secure the ears where we think they're going to look neat. So we're going to take this one. First, actually, go on the bottom, sorry. Where is the bottom of the ear that you want it to be? Do that first. And push the needle through the other side where you want the bottom of the ear to be. And look at some pictures or some picture books or to decide, because placement of the ears will probably affect the character of your llama a lot. Okay, so now I'm going to get this tail. I will hold this for placement. I'm going to come through here. Just go through any stitch like this, and the ear will close a little bit. Then go through the next stitch and go down again so that the ears are not sticking up too straight, too high. Good. And then you can do a couple of stitches right here at the ear base. To secure them. Like I said, think about where these will go, who will handle them, what they will be doing with them. If you anticipate a child playing with this, be very, very careful to secure this really well. If it's going to be an ornament, you can be less worried. And you will also maybe want this little loop here for right now. We'll cut it off later. Okay, let's get the second one. Where's the bottom? Here's the bottom. Okay, we go right here where our placement comes. Bring it through to the top. Squish the ear inwards a little bit to avoid making it look like a straight line. Sometimes when things are too straight, they look strange. But as long as you can recognize what you're making, that's what we're after. Okay, a few stitches here to secure it nicely. Okay, all of these things need to disappear. I don't want the ears to fall off. So I'm going to feed them all in one place. Then I'm going to secure them from there. You may want to give a hairstyle to your llama. That would actually be funny. Huh? Let's leave this like that for a little while. And we'll see. You don't have to. You can tie this off and put it in. Maybe you want your llama to have a little bit of hair on their forehead. And if you don't, you can cut them very short. They can still be little swoops of hair, or you can push them into the wool and the stuffing on the inside. these two. I'm going to leave these two and push in the other two. And you decide what you like, what personality your little llama or alpaca will have, depending on the size and the length of the neck that you get from your yarn, from your leftover yarn. You can give it a finishing touch that you like. Okay, we need the tail. We need some legs. We'll need some eyes. Let's do some eyes. Use this dark yarn. I'll go under the blanket here. And go all the way to the head through the wool. Can make a couple of stitches here up by the nose for the eyes. If you have nice little eyes, you can make nice little eyes with toy eyes. But you can also do it with the stitch like this. Have a little dot on the nose too. If you don't want to use yarn, you want to use thread and make finer detail, you can do that. There we go. We get a little more of a character for our little toy. Now you can cut it off, or you can come here to the edge of the blanket and save this tail in case that you want to make it into an ornament. So this will be a good place, good distribution of weight if you wanted to make it like an ornament. So save this tail here for right now, just in case you want to do that with it. And you can always cut it off later. It's always easier to cut it off than to put it back on. Okay, have the little eyes, we have the little ears. Now you can see it's coming together, but it doesn't look like a four-legged animal yet. We need the four legs and we need the tail. So let's work on that. And you can always keep adjusting the shape, because as you work with it, your shape is going to get lost because you're squeezing it with your hands. So here we go. Let's do the same way we did the ears. We're going to make the tail. Have 3 stitches. Slide them over. Slide them over the second time. Slide them over the third time. Okay, 3 times will be enough, I think. We'll cut this off, get a sewing needle. One, oh, not from the same side, from the other side. 1, 2, 3. Now come down the side, following the 3 little stitches we made, and come to the bottom. There we go. Come to the little behind and attach the tail. With a couple of stitches. And we're going to do a couple more stitches with this tail. Make it nice and secure and neatly hidden inside. Again, these are not little toddler-proof toys. You will have to pay more attention to construction. This is a figure for decoration, an ornament, something simple like that to use your leftover yarn. Okay, 4 little legs. We will do what we did for the tail and the ears, but we'll do 4 stitches to make legs a little bigger than the tail and the ears, of course. So 4 stitches, slide over, one time, slide over again, two times, three times. Let's see what it looks like. Let's do it 4 times. You're almost there, just the legs and you're finished. I know this has been a long video, but also not a long project. You can do this in one afternoon. Have a lovely surprise for somebody. So I did it 5 times. I want to remember that so that all the legs are done the same. Okay, that's my 1. 3 more. Four stitches, 5 times, slide over and knit. That's 1. Two. Three. 4. 5. 2 legs, 2 more. Cast on 4 stitches. Slide and knit 5 times. By the way, when you do this slide and knit thing, that has a knitting professional name. It's called knitting an I-cord. So now you know how to knit an I-cord. You know how to do long tail cast on. You know how to do stockinette stitch. You know how to knit in the round. Three. You know another way of casting off. 4. 5. Leg number 3. One more leg. One, 2, 3, 4 stitches, 5 times. Slide. Let's call it the proper name. I-cord. 5 rows of I-cord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cut it off. Sewing needle. Yes, you can do a bind off for I-cord for this project. This will serve us better. But on another project, we will also show how to do casting off from an I-cord knitting. Okay, where do we place the legs now? So we have to think how to make them look the way we want them to look. So maybe 2 here, 2 here. And think about it. You're doing this. So go back through the loops of the stitches like that. Pull it again and find a placement that you like. Go through the leg and through llama. Maybe it reminds you of a llama, maybe alpaca, maybe another animal. I don't know how your project went. Sometimes these things get a life of their own. This one I'm going to call a llama. Second leg. Again, you see these stitches where I threaded the yarn through. Oops, I went on the wrong side. Sorry, here. See the stitches where I threaded the yarn through at the end? Go from the other side and go through one more time. Where would I like this little leg? This feels like a good spot. And just put it through for placement, like so. Okay, so now the other 2 from the other side. Thread the needle with the tail from the ending edge. There are those little stitches. I go from the back. My needle goes through the stitches and I pull tight. This leg should go on the other side of this leg. Try to match the placement. Good. This one, there was the finishing side. Thread the needle. Go from the back through here. Good. It should be placed on the opposite side of this leg. Okay, so now you see how I pushed this yarn through? So the yarn from this leg I will use to secure the one on the other side. With a few stitches to put it in place. Okay, and I go on the other side, the yarn from the leg on opposite. I use to secure the leg on this side. Couple of nice little stitches, or a few, maybe not just a couple, maybe 3 or 4, depending on what is needed to make a nice position, securely attached. Okay, let's clean up this side. And you can clean it up however it's coming together most smoothly for you. I like to push all of these ends inside into the stuffing. It's the safest place for them. For the wool will also contain them. And keep them out of touch. Little legs. She's coming together, becoming more recognizable and very happy with it. Okay, do the same with the legs in the back. Here, you need to decide, do you want to have this? I think I do, so I'm going to tie this. This can become a little ornament. If I decide I don't like it, I can always cut that off. I wonder what you're going to make. And do comment, tell us what colors you used. How did it work out on your end? Would you like to make other little tiny figures from your leftover sock project yarn? The options are endless for what we can make, the tiny things we can knit with leftover yarn from our sock projects are many, many, many. So do comment, do let us know what other things you'd like to knit with your leftover yarn. And we can put them together and make them together. It is always so much fun to do that. I also love making a little ornament or a little figure to add with the socks that are a gift. Usually people don't expect getting a little ornament or a figure or a toy with their pair of socks or mittens. And it always makes them smile to discover it. So consider doing that. By now, if you're somebody who likes to knit socks, your friends probably know how much time and care and love goes into it. They're going to love the little treasures you make for them, and they will cherish them. They'll become magical in their own way because of the love and care and time you pour into them while you're thinking of the people you're knitting for. We're almost there. The little figure is almost ready. You did it. You created something very cute, versatile, from the leftover yarn in your stash. Have a lot of fun. I think this will be added to our ornament collection. Or it might become a gift for someone. Who knows? We'll find out.